Hello again. Welcome back to week 14 of year 4 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is day 2. I'm going to read something a little different. A saying of Saint Silouan. Now, Saint Silouan is a saint of the 20th century. He was born Simeon Ivanovich Antonov in 1866 to Orthodox parents in Russia's Tambov region, somewhat to the northeast of Ukraine. At the age of 27, after a time of military service and working in the world, he left his native Russia and came to Mount Athos, where he became a monk at the monastery of St. Panteleimon and was given the name Silouan, which is the Russian version of the biblical name Silvanus, or Silas. An ardent ascetic, he received the grace of unceasing prayer, and he saw Christ in a vision. After long years of spiritual trial, he acquired great humility and inner stillness. He prayed and wept for the whole world as for himself, and he put the highest value on love for enemies. Even Thomas Merton, a 20th century Catholic monk, described Silouan as the most authentic monk of the 20th century. St. Silouan fell asleep in the Lord on September 24th, 1938. He was glorified by the Ecumenical Patriarchate in 1987, and his feast is celebrated on the day of his repose on September 24th. Although barely literate himself, he was sought out by pilgrims for his wise counsel. His writings were edited by his disciple and pupil Archimandrite Sophrony, now Saint Sophrony. Father Sophrony has written the life of the saint, along with a record of Saint Silouan's teachings in the book Saint Silouan the Athonite. This is what he says. He tells a story. Brother R told me how once when he lay seriously ill, his mother said to his father, "How ill our little lad is. I would gladly let myself be cut in pieces if it would help him and ease his suffering." The Lord's love for man is like that. He said, "Great love hath no man than this, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his fellow." The Lord's compassion for us was so strong that he wanted to suffer for us, as a mother suffers, and even more. But no man can conceive of this great love without the grace of the Holy Spirit. The Scriptures tell of this love, but neither are they to be understood by the mind, for in the Scriptures, too, the same Holy Spirit speaks. The love of the Lord is such that he would have all men saved. His desire is that all should abide eternally with him in heaven and behold his glory. We do not know the fullness of this glory, but through the Holy Spirit we may conceive of it in part. But the man who has not come to know the Holy Spirit can have no conception of this glory. He can only believe in the promise of the Lord and keep his commandments. However, he too is blessed, as the Lord showed St. Thomas, and will have equal place with those who saw the glory of God while still here on earth. If you would know the Lord, humble yourself to the utmost. Be obedient and sober in all things. Love truth, and the Lord of a surety will give you to know him through the Holy Spirit, and then you will know by experience what love towards God is and what love towards man is. And the more perfect the love, the more perfect your knowledge. There is love in small measure, there is an average of love, and there is great love. The man who fears sin loves God. The man with a tender heart loves him more. Still greater is the love of the man in whose soul dwell light and joy. But the man with grace in soul and body has perfect love. This is the grace the Holy Spirit gave to the martyrs, the grace that helped them to bear every suffering with fortitude. Now, this is a thoughtful piece, but I want to emphasize what he says in the second paragraph, saying that the Lord's love for us was so great that he wanted to suffer for us like a mother suffers, and even more. So he's talking about how the Lord's suffering shows his love for us, but then he takes a hard turn. He doesn't urge us to think about the Lord's suffering, to think about the depth of it. He doesn't urge us to reflect on this and try to imagine or shock ourselves with the love of God. He simply says, no man can conceive of this great love without the grace of the Holy Spirit. And then he guides us down a different path. the acquisition of the Holy Spirit, so that we can actually receive the love of God, not to be shocked by it or awed by it or overwhelmed by it, but so that we may actually encounter the Lord's love in truth, not just as a story, but in its reality. So he says, the Holy Spirit will reveal this to us. Some are granted to know this as fully as is possible. Through the Holy Spirit we may conceive of this. And he talks first. He says, well, that there are those who do not know the Holy Spirit. They can't actually understand this glory. All we can do is believe in the promise of the Lord and follow his commandments. And that's blessed. But he says if we want to actually know the love of the Lord, humble ourselves, be obedient and sober, love truth, and the Lord will grant us the gift of the Holy Spirit. And then he kind of outlines what the ascent in perfection is like. He says, if you fear sin, then that is a way of showing love for God. That's a start, if we begin to fear sin. But the man with a tender heart loves God more. So not just fearing sin, not just avoiding temptation and evil, but having a tender heart. And I think that would imply compassion towards one another, right? So, but the greater than that, he says, is the love of the man in whose soul light and joy dwell. And I don't know what that means, but I can sort of begin perhaps to conceive that tender heart allows light and joy to enter into the soul. But then he says you can go one step further and have grace in your soul and in your body, and this grants perfect love. What this looks like, how this actually progresses, is not clear. Because I'm not there, I can't witness to this, but St. Silouan witnesses to this. And the saints all bear witness to this. The transformation of being, the way to encounter and receive the love of God is not with the mind, but with faithful living, with the struggle against sin, the laying aside of temptation, with the refusal to judge or speak ill against someone else, that with the fostering of that tender heart, and with the prayer that invites and opens the door to light and joy and love from the Lord. So this is the path of holiness and the path of fulfillment and joy. So that's it for day 2. We'll see you in a little bit for day 3. God bless you all.